21 minutes away from 8 o'clock, the Entrepreneurs Network here on Classic FM. And right now we're talking BEE. Yep, in actual fact, Keith Levenstein, the CEO of B-BBEE or B. Keith, welcome to the Entrepreneurs Network.
Evening, Tony. Thank you very much.
We're talking about the scorecard, aren't we?
Yes, that's it.
The BEE scorecard. Well, let's first of all define BEE.
More accurately, we should be referring to broad-based black economic empowerment.
Yep.
It's an economic policy, in particular a growth policy of the South African government. So it's something that is trying to encourage growth in the country. Obviously, the most important part of it is to encourage transformation, to ensure that the economy and society is slightly more equitable than it has been.
Okay. Now, I've got in front of me a document that is readily available for people, am I right?
It certainly is.
The Crash Course in BEE. So where can they go for that so that people know what we're talking about?
It is available on our own website, which is www.econobee.co.za.
Straightforward. Now, let's go through it. The definition of a black person.
A black person is a definition, it's a person who is first of all, a South African citizen,
yeah,
or somebody who has become nationalized in South Africa before 1994, an African black, colored, Indian or Chinese person.
Okay.
So someone who is, for example, arrived in South Africa last year from China is not a black person. We get to the strange situation, Tony, that there's a category of black and non-black.
Yeah.
Because somebody from, for example, Zimbabwe is not defined as black for the simple reason that transformation needs to take place inside our own country, and it affects the people who needed it most, i.e. before 1990.
Yeah, pre-1990. Okay, now let's look at the 7 elements, shall we, of BEE.
Sure.
Ownership.
Ownership refers to the ownership of the enterprise. And when you talk about an enterprise, you talk about a company or in some cases a public enterprise but in general we're talking of companies, other similar enterprises. In all cases, the scorecard has specific targets of ownership and awards points on the scorecard.
Okay.
So, for example, if you are a large company, there's a target of 25% plus 1 vote to be held or sold to black people. Under those circumstances, there's potentially up to 23 points that are available to that particular company in order to earn points. And obviously, because you've got a scorecard, psychologically, and the aim of the policy is to try and encourage companies to get as many points as they possibly can. The points, in effect, are out of 100%.
Okay. Now, management, directors, top management of the business. How does it affect that?
Management, of course, does refer to directors, non-executive directors, also the senior top management of the company. That's worth a total of 11 points on the scorecard. What I'd like to point out right away, of course, is the scorecard differentiates between different types of enterprises.
Yeah.
Very large companies, such as, for example, FNB, needs to follow what is known as the generic scorecard.
Yeah.
And they need to worry about all 7 elements, and the points I mentioned earlier on refer to the generic company.
Right.
But a slightly smaller company, and size is dependent on the company's annual turnover. So if a company has a turnover of below 35 million rand per annum, they have different points on the scorecard. In fact, they only need to worry about 4 of those 7 elements.
But above 5 million, that's QSE, a qualifying small enterprise.
That's what they call it. It's no longer an SME, but a QSE for qualifying small enterprises. Any enterprise that has a turnover of between 5 million and 35 million is known as the QSE.
There is an exempt category.
Absolutely, and that's where a lot of small businesses, probably the majority of businesses in this country fall. They're known as exempt micro-enterprises. And if your turnover is below 5 million rand, depending in certain instances, the industry in which you belong, the threshold might be slightly different. But in general, if your turnover is below 5 million rand, you're known as an exempt micro-enterprise, which means that you're automatically awarded a score of 65 points without having to worry about...
Therefore, you fall into line straight away.
And you automatically fall into line. It's one of the strategies that government has as a growth policy again, to try and encourage small businesses to grow and to remove the red tape from small businesses. In effect, the red tape falls on the larger businesses. The smaller ones are automatically compliant.
I mean, it looks fairly straightforward. Do you find you get lots of inquiries, people emailing and calling your business to say, please explain? I mean, it looks straightforward, but there's lots of numbers in here and lots of categories, if you like.
There are lots of numbers, and a lot of people might have problems with the numbers and doing the calculations. But to answer your question, we have a lot of people who need the explanation. I think to a large extent, BEE is an emotional topic. Nobody has a neutral policy on it. A lot of people feel maybe aggrieved one way or the other, and as a result, possibly with respect, might not be able to think that clearly. Relating to some of these elements. When you look at it completely objectively and clearly, it makes so much sense as a growth policy of South Africa, and it's no different to any other growth policy of any other country in the world or other policies that we in South Africa have. We have thousands of acts, laws, policies, all trying to help our economy grow. This is only one of so many. It shouldn't have that emotion around it.
The scorecard and the situation regarding BEE, the scorecard and the thinking behind it, and the way it's broken down into the various categories, I mean, that's a process that must have taken years to put together.
It did. The Act itself was only gazetted in 2003, which is now 9 years after the New South Africa. The Act itself set out the concept that there would be a scorecard, but it took another 4 years before a document called the Codes of Good Practice came out, which itemized exactly how to measure our company or enterprises in terms of the scorecard. So 2007 back to 1994 is 13 long years, in our opinion, far too long. But it is a really well thought out concept, particularly the fact that it is a scorecard. It's one of the few economic policies in the world where you can objectively measure yourself. Compared to any other organization or any other company.
And the exempt category actually gives people, 5 million rand is good business. So the exempt category where you automatically awarded the right number of points, I mean, that's quite a good turnover, 5 million.
It is.
What I'm saying is it doesn't really restrict people.
It doesn't. It shouldn't. They haven't increased the threshold since 2007, and in those days it was 5 million, but with inflation and improved business and growth, I suppose they should induce that, which they probably will do within a year or two. But 5 million rand covers a large proportion of businesses. Many of your listeners who might be worried about BEE don't realize that they not only are compliant, but they've got great economic and competitive benefits over the larger company.
Absolutely.
They are automatically compliant. They don't have to worry about reaching that incredibly good level 4.
Keith Levenstein, CEO, EconoBee. What's your website so people can ask you questions?
www.econobee.co.za.
Keith, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Tony.